played for a long time at tackle. You played for a long time at guard. Do you have a preference?
No. But I love playing tackle, especially, now that, just I've been here, my second year at right tackle. I feel like I'm only going to continue to get better. So it's just one of those things.
Today's Friday, November 9th. This is the Cowboys Beat on CLNS Media. I'm Ari Temkin, along with Patrick Conn. Ari and Conn, or Patrick and Temkin, however you want to crack it. Lyle Collins is our guest today, who's been a much maligned offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll figure out if he would prefer to play offensive tackle or offensive guard. But Patrick, let's start with Jerry Jones and what he said on 105.3 The Fan earlier this week, in basically saying Dak's a good quarterback, he's our quarterback, he's a young quarterback, he's going to get an extension. What did that say to you?
Well, can I start with 4 seconds of dead air? Much love to RJ and Sean, but that was
sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, what? Do you want to run that by me one more time? Man, I try to be fair in criticizing Dak Prescott. At times, as a fan, I can be a little critical. I think any of us really can be. But when I look at it overall, there are things that I like about Dak. There are things that are concerning about Dak. So to come out and on your national radio show where everybody's going to be listening, and you come out and you say, we're going to extend Dak Prescott. To me, if I'm his agent, I want to hear that. You've given me all of the leverage in the world. Yeah, you want to sign me? Okay, but it's going to hurt your pocketbook. So, that's concerning. Very concerning.
Yeah, but it seems, doesn't it seem obvious now? Here's the thing that I think is kind of funny is we sort of pick and choose the things in which Jerry says that we're going to take as the gospel, when we should just recognize that a lot of times when he's saying something publicly, it's really to defer attention away from something else. And I don't think this is any different. Instead of spending a week criticizing his coaching staff, instead they're going to be talking about Jerry and how crazy Jerry is because he's going to offer Dak Prescott an extension. He does this all the time. I don't think this means they're going to offer Dak Prescott an extension. I don't, even though that's what he said. Because he says a lot of things a lot of the time, and then those things never come to fruition, but in the moment seem like he's saying things that are absolute. So, I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that in general, but I just think, yeah, he said it, but a lot of times he'll say something and we'll be like, oh, that's just Jerry talking, and then other times we'll sort of pick and choose when we believe what he's saying is actually true.
I normally would think, I would normally think that under different circumstances. When he comes out and says, Jason Garrett's our guy. We're going to continue on with Jason Garrett. We're going to continue on with Scott Linehan. Jerry Jones has this way of having full confidence in you until the day that he doesn't. And
yeah, for sure.
The day that he doesn't is the day that he fires you. Ask Paul Alexander. But when it comes to this, I kind of think that where there's smoke, there's fire. Now,
so you're buying this?
I'm not buying it as in, I think it's going to happen now. I don't think it's something that's going to happen this season. I don't think it's something that's going to happen this off season. I still think that there is an evaluation period going on. I still think that they're going to wait until next season before they make that decision. Because ultimately, I think it has to do with not only what he does through the next 8 games and what he does next season, but I also think it's what's going to happen with the staff next year as well.
we talked last week about should the Cowboys draft a quarterback in next year's draft, and I think we sort of, well, I mean, I thought no, because I would take a quarterback at the first round based on the metrics that indicate that you're most likely to find a successful quarterback in the first round. But you encountered this week sort of a different thought on that.
Yeah, and I still think it's highly unlikely that they draft a quarterback before day 3 of the draft.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of guys that you can look at, and I kind of think, maybe this guy fits. And a guy that I'm thinking about is Brett Ripien, the nephew of Mark Ripien, former Super Bowl winner with the Washington Redskins. He's a guy that I'm kind of looking at and going, I think that they could work with him. Well, you hear where he plays, and then you're like, well, okay, there's a tie.
Boise State.
Played at Boise State. But, I wanted to, one of the things that Dak Prescott fits is a term that maybe you've heard before called the Parcells rules.
Yes.
So basically it's 7 rules for quarterbacks, and the things that they look for is 3-year starter, senior in college, graduated from college, started 30 games, win 23, 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and completion rate above 60%. Dak Prescott checked all those boxes. Brett Ripien also checks all those boxes, provided he graduates from college, and I would think that he is. And in the year that Dak was drafted, if you look at the quarterbacks who they were tied to a lot that year, Cook, Goff, Lynch, Wentz, Hackenberg, none of them matched all 7. Not saying that this is a foolproof plan, but it's just something that has been tossed around and they use in comparison to looking into quarterbacks. I mean, in national media, I should say. So he matches all of those. The thing that you like about him is obviously he plays at Boise, and they're very familiar with that program. They have lots of players that come from there, whether you're talking Leighton Vander Esch, Cedric Wilson, who they drafted this last year, both of those players.
Yeah, Tyrone Crawford.
Orlando Scandrick came from there. I mean, there is a list of players that they have pulled from that school. So there's an obvious connection there. Brett, he has an NFL pedigree.
Where do you think he'll end up being drafted? Where do you think he's going to be slotted?
I think he's a day 2 guy. I really think I would say he's a top 45 pick. That's, and this is straight based on my opinion. I haven't spoken to any scouts or anything like that, and usually closer to the draft is when I start reaching out, kind of get a feel for where NFL teams are really looking at these guys. But right now, I'm thinking he's a top 45 guy. And as we know, quarterbacks are criminally overdrafted anyway.
Right. No, that's a good point.
Because they're so hard to find a good one.
Yes, and really hard to evaluate for sure. All right. This week, Dez Bryant signed with the New Orleans Saints. Dez reportedly had other offers on the table throughout the year, but, wanted to find the right team. So he found his right team. Is it a good fit? And the other thing, Patrick, is there seems to be, there's a lot of Cowboys fans that are now becoming Saints fans, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll start with the first question there. Is it a good fit? And I think it is. There's a lot of injuries in New Orleans at the wide receiver position.
Right, Cameron Meredith just went on IR, and they haven't really even found a secondary receiver beyond, Michael Thomas obviously, and then using Alvin Kamara in the passing game too. So I mean, you look at the numbers for their secondary receivers, and they've really been lacking, and Cameron Meredith is certainly in that capacity too.
And that's the great thing is this is such a good situation for Dez Bryant because he's not going to be the focal point. His struggles came from being the focal point in Dallas later on, with under Scott Linehan.
Right.
And Jason Garrett in his last few years there. I mean, he did have the injury concerns and maybe he wasn't fully healthy. So there's that, but he's going to a much better team as in they have a much better offensive game planning because of Sean Payton. And they have one of the best quarterbacks ever to lace up the cleats in Drew Brees. And Drew Brees is a guy that if you're open, he's going to get you the ball. And so the great thing is Dez isn't going to have to worry about, like I said, being the focal point. And Michael Thomas is going to take a lot of pressure off of him. So I would expect him to have, some success. And we're going to find out in 3 weeks just how good he is.
Yeah.
When he comes to Dallas. And I'm going to get to your point there about a lot of Cowboy fans. You're right. A lot of Cowboy fans love Dez Bryant, and I get it. A guy who the all-time leading touchdown reception leader in Cowboy history, provided a lot of great memories. He brought passion, and you just really loved the way that he went about it. But there's this growing contingency of people who are like, well, I hope that, he beats the pants off the Cowboys when they come to town. I hope Dez scores 3 touchdowns. And I think a lot of it, it would be less so if the Cowboys were competitive at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that they're 3-5 right now, and if they lose on Sunday night to the Eagles, you're talking about a 7% chance to 3% chance to make the playoffs. I know playoffs. I'll insert Jim Mora soundbite. So I know it's a far-fetched thing, but I understand it. But me personally, I wish Dez the best. I hope he does well. But when the Saints come to town on that Thursday night, I definitely won't be rooting for the guy. I don't want to see him do well against the Cowboys. Why? Because, of course, I'm a Cowboys guy. I want to see the Cowboys do well. And we can both agree, Ari, it's a hell of a lot more fun for both of us to cover this football team when they're winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not 3-5. Certainly not. No.
No, not 3-5.
The thing for me about Dez, and I know, what's going to end up happening is he's going to have some success, and then Cowboys fans are going to be like, see, why don't they re-sign him? Look at the numbers that he's putting up. He's still, and it was never, to me, a question about his ability. I mean, he still obviously had a tremendous amount of ability. It was just the fit. And, we could sit here and talk about the inability to sort of get open, and that's not a knock on Dez so much as it is, it's a knock on Dak in some ways. Dak couldn't get him the football because he's not a guy that can create separation. And that's the difference between he and Amari Cooper. Cooper creates separation, and that was the knock on Dez. But then there's the component of, he would constantly be in the ear of Dak, and sort of he was taught, or he always felt like, because of Romo empowered him, that when he had one-on-one matchups, that he was going to, let him know that he's had one-on-one matchups. And I think that kind of irked Dak in a way, because he wanted to sort of, use his full complement of receivers. So whether that's making excuses for Dak or what, it just wasn't the right fit, and this organization decided to move on from him. And I don't know that he'd be having if he goes and has success with the Saints, I don't think that would mean, well, he would have had the same success had he been here.
Maybe not. And, had he been here, Dallas doesn't make that trade for Amari Cooper.
Right.
But the one thing is, with a wide receiver who's considered if you're considered a top 10 receiver in the league, if you're a number 1 guy, if you got one-on-one coverage, you're open. And you just, and I kind of feel like Dak didn't have that trust. I still don't feel like Dak has that trust. When you look at what they're doing, he kind of forced things to Amari, in that game against the Titans. So, you're right. I don't think that it really would have been all that much better, with Dez being here and whatnot. But a lot of that falls on the coaching too. They've got to find, and this is my thing on Dak. Really, I kind of want to go back to that. We're talking about Dak Prescott, and the big thing right now is everybody's freaking out, going, okay, well, what do we do about Dak right now? They're trying to make these decisions on Dak Prescott. And my whole thing is, he's your guy, right? Jerry Jones has come out and says we're going to extend him. So he's the guy. So benching him at any point in the next 8 weeks is going to be counterproductive. because you send the wrong message. So what you have to do now is what can we do to help Dak Prescott? And so what they've got to be able to do is they've got to be able to protect the quarterback. That's my big worry. And I know we're going to get into it, but I am really concerned about Fletcher Cox.
All right, let's speak with the Cowboys offensive tackle Lyle Collins. But first, I've got to tell you about The Athletic. And look, I recently splurged and decided to get an Athletic subscription. And man, it's just incredible to have all of my sports in one place, great articles from people that are there, insightful stuff. I mean, it's no ads, no pop-ups, no autoplay videos. Instead, we get great, authentic, in-depth coverage written by journalists who know their teams, the Cowboys, the Stars, the Mavericks, inside and out. Coverage goes beyond just game recaps and trade speculation. It provides smarter analysis and a deeper perspective about teams and leagues. Subscribers have access to local and national content with more than 650 to 700 news stories published every week across all sports. Go to theathletic.com/CowboysBeat and get 40% off. You'll get it for $2.99 per month. 40% off your subscription to The Athletic. Look, Calvin Watkins is able to break down film with different Cowboys players. You've also got great breakdowns from Bob Sturm and Jeff Kavanaugh. I mean, the names you know and trust and read and listen to. The most in-depth coverage on your favorite teams. Go to theathletic.com/CowboysBeat. You get the great information that I give you here on the Cowboys Beat. A lot of the information that I'm getting, I'm reading on The Athletic. So make sure to go and get a subscription now to The Athletic, theathletic.com/CowboysBeat, and you're going to get 40% off. So it's just $2.99 per month for between 650 and 700 articles that are produced constantly across the platform. theathletic.com/CowboysBeat. Be a part of the future of sports journalism. The Athletic. Let's visit with Lyle Collins on the Cowboys Beat. How's it going, man? Have you had any time to get out and go fishing at all this season?
Actually, I have. Went out one day after a game, just kind of got out there, but didn't really have too much luck. But definitely looking to go some more during the season sometime.
Where do you go?
Right in my backyard. Usually go right there to Lake Louisville and just throw a couple lines out.
Is that like you get home from a game and it's not too late and it's just a good way to kind of get your mind off of it and relax?
It's just one of those things. It's like probably my favorite hobby. One of the things I just love to do. Just get on my ATV. Shout out to Zeke for hooking us up, and just get on the trail and just go out onto the lake and throw a couple lines in and just relax, chill out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, do you find yourself? I mean, if it's a hobby, it's different than being therapy, but do you find yourself getting therapy from it?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, anytime you're sitting there, being patient, waiting to get a bite, you just kind of sit there and just kind of, collect your thoughts and kind of, running things back that's kind of been going on and just kind of think about those things and it definitely just puts you in that mind state of, all right, here I am, take a deep breath and just play this thing out.
Yeah, no, for sure. So how has the change with offensive line coach been? I mean, has it been significant, do you think?
Well, it's been great in the sense of, the things that Colombo brings to the table as an offensive line coach, grinding, just getting that grind back and understanding what that feels like. So when the game comes, it's a whole lot easier.
Are you finding he's more like Frank Pollock as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, he's got some things that that he brings that I guess from being under Frank and some of the guys that he's been under, he brings to us. So which is great, and he also has his own coaching style, and which is great too. We all kind of gravitate to.
There was all this talk last week about the catch style. I'm not an offensive lineman. I haven't played offensive lineman. Is it significant, sort of changing the way that you try to block?
Yeah, it is. Just depends on knowing the type of guy that you're going against. Obviously, there's some techniques where you kind of want to wait on the guy and then just kind of run him around the quarterback. And there's sometimes where those type of guys you don't want to let those guys build up that pressure, build up their speed to where if they're a big, strong power guy, and they can, kind of use that as your weakness. So you want to be able to kind of get on those guys and stop their momentum from going.
The bye week, there were a lot of changes for this team. You had a receiver who's going to be a big part of this offense. You bring in he's been here, but a new offensive line coach. Does it feel like you guys even had the bye since there was so much to work due during the bye?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely felt like, the bye was great for us. Just kind of get our legs and feet back up under us and things like that. But, once the coaching changed, whatever happened, we already kind of know what Colombo's all about. So, nothing new. Colombo's been here since I've been here. So, I'm used to the way he coaches.
What did Mark Colombo say to you guys after he took over?
He just told us, the coaching change came from, up above, and, we're going to hit the ground rolling. There's no time to look back. We gotta get going. So, that's one thing he put emphasis on.
Why do you think the offense has had the struggles it's had this year so far?
It's hard to just say one thing. It's never just one thing. There's always a little something here or there, or whatever the case may be. But for us, we just gotta, just put it all together better than we have, and do things better than we have. Because if you look at it, at the end of the day, if we go out and do everything that we're supposed to do, then we give ourselves a better chance to win. And sometimes when we don't do those things, it makes it a lot tougher. So
it's like fishing, right? The weather, the current, right, the bait.
Exactly.
It's all got to be there. Right. It's hard to catch fish if it's all not there.
Exactly. If some of those things aren't clicking, then you might not catch a fish. If you're not fishing deep enough, sometimes you can't catch a fish. Sometimes you got to know where they are. So it all kind of works hand in hand, man. You just got to take the good with the bad and continue to grind.
How do you mentally, not stay focused? That's not the right way to say it, but when you start to lose some games and there seems to be negativity, not inside the locker room, but maybe outside. How do you stay focused?
Just focus on the things that that you can do better. Focus on things that you can clean up, and let that be the difference maker in not only in your individual play, but it helps the team.
What's the difference between playing guard and tackle?
Tackle, you're on an island. You're facing the best athletes that can move that fast at that position. A guard, not so much, but you're still dealing with you're dealing with usually power guys on the inside, and sometimes on the outside you're dealing with guys with speed and power. So it's it's a combination of those things. So you just gotta be an athlete.
You played for a long time at tackle. You played for a long time at guard. Do you have a preference?
No, but I love playing tackle. Especially now that just I've been here, my second year at right tackle. I feel like I'm only going to continue to get better. So it's just one of those things.
Well, it's funny because you hear the outside noise from fans that are like, "Well, move Collins back to guard," and for me, it's like, but they've invested so much time developing him at right tackle. Right. And as he's been in the NFL, basically your rookie year, you play a little guard, right? And then since then, you played tackle the entire time, right?
I played guard the first 2 years, and then tackle. This is my second year at tackle, so yeah. So 2 years at guard, 2 years at right tackle.
Tyrone seems to switch it back outside, inside. But it seems more difficult to do on the offensive line, isn't it?
Well, completely. It's completely different. Defensive line, you can still get in the same stance that you do on the right or left. Offensive line, you got to switch everything, so it's completely different.
All right, brother, good luck.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
All right, that's Lyle Collins on the Cowboys beat with Patrick Conn. I'm Ari Temkin on Twitter at Ari Sports. Patrick Conn is on Twitter at Draft Cowboys. You can read his stuff at WFAA.com, and of course through following him on Twitter, Draft Cowboys. And of course, you can catch me as part of the Cowboys pre and post game show on 105.3 The Fan. And I stream live every day, 12 o'clock noon Central Time on Phantom, www.facebook.com/watch Phantom. All right, Cowboys and Eagles on Sunday night, and it's the latest must-win in a season of endless must-wins for the Dallas Cowboys. But certainly, Patrick, they're 1-1 in the division now. And the division obviously goes through either Washington or Philadelphia, so you lose this one, and you might start to see some changes with this Cowboys team. Quite frankly, if they fall to 3-6, I think that would be well below expectations, and you might start to see Jerry get mad and perhaps let some coaches go. Maybe, who knows?
I would say, just on that point, if the Cowboys come out on Sunday night and get embarrassed on national television for the second straight week,
right,
with an inept offense, you can go ahead and say goodbye to Scott Linehan.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard to disagree with that because the offense has just been abysmal, and at some point, the offensive coordinator has to be responsible for that. And man, would it be interesting to see Jason Garrett going back to calling plays? It's been, 7-8 years since he called plays?
It was 2012, 2011?
Wow.
Since he called plays last? Because I think 2012 and 2013, or is it 2013, might have been the year that they brought in Bill Callahan.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
2014, they brought in Scott, and then basically pushed Callahan out the door.
So it's been quite some time since Jason Garrett's called plays.
Yeah, it's been quite some time. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out and how that comes about. Yeah, and going back to the Titan game real quick, the Cowboys scored one touchdown that wasn't off of a short field.
Right. I mean, they had 3 possessions, in the red zone, two turnovers. They were +2 in the turnover ratio, 3 possessions in the red zone, and only had 7 points. And
yeah, total they had 4 possessions in the red zone and came away with 7 points.
Wow. I mean, that's if you want to write the obituary on that game, that's it right there. They could not score touchdowns. They obviously missed the 3 points, the kick, but I mean, that was a bad possession anyways, or they blew opportunities. So, yeah, I mean, they've just, for whatever reason, have not been able to get out of their own way. And you could sort of sense early on that they didn't take advantage of those opportunities, and that they were going to they're really going to regret that. And I obviously think that's exactly what happened.
I mean, yeah, you look at the game and early on, Tennessee couldn't do anything.
Right.
And you were thinking, oh, here we go. It's like the Cowboys can get going. I mean, they'll bury this team early. And unfortunately, give props to Matt LaFleur and Marcus Mariota. LaFleur called a great game, and Mariota, he was able to execute it.
Yeah, I mean, they were 11 of 14 on third down.
Mm-hmm.
It was just incredible. And I mean, look, I can imagine how demoralizing it would be for a defense to come up with, 2 big turnovers in the red zone and see your team not really cap those off with big-time points. So I'm not going to say the defense quit on the team, but I can understand how frustrated a defense would be. It's inexcusable to be 11 of 14 on third down. That's basically 80%. It's ridiculous. That's horrible.
It is. It is horrible, but the other thing that's horrible is the fact that your offense has been so inept that your defense spends more than 30 minutes on the field.
Right.
And so when you look at the Eagles team, and it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be something similar unless the offense can provide something. The Eagles have a good defense, but I'm worried about this offense. How are the Cowboys going to be able to stop Zach Ertz? Then there's Dallas Goddard. Okay. Yeah.
How about Golden Tate, who had 136 and 2 touchdowns against the Cowboys earlier this year? Alshon Jeffrey. It doesn't look like Darren Sproles is going to play. He was injured. He was clear to play, and then he re-aggravated the injury in practice this week.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's good news for the Cowboys. So the Eagles' running game hasn't been great, but the big worry for me beyond the weapons is Carson Wentz, who started slow and he's really picked up. He's one of 2 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL to have 3 consecutive games of 30+ attempts, at least 30 attempts, and 115 passer rating. So he's just been lighting it on fire. He's back to being the Carson Wentz that was an MVP candidate last year. That's a problem. And the other thing is Fletcher Cox, which you brought up before we talked to Lyle Collins. And that is, I mean, good luck to the new left guard, whether it be Adam Redmond or Xavier Su'a-Filo, but one of those guys got to step in and have to battle I mean, welcome to the NFL. Here's Haloti Ngata and Fletcher Cox in the middle there to bother you.
And if you had Travis Frederick, I may not be as worried because I would expect that Frederick would help him. But you got Joe Looney. And Joe Looney didn't play very well the last game. He still played well, but he hadn't played as well as he had in recent weeks. So there's a concern there. Zach Martin's still dealing with sprained MCL. Yeah, he played through it. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, up front, I'm really worried about those guys. Outside, I think that Amari Cooper can take advantage. The question being, will that protection hold up? And can Ezekiel Elliott do something early on to get, involved? But then again, he could have 96 yards in the first half and touch it 6 times in the second.
You see any way the Cowboys can win this game?
Do I see any way they can?
Yeah.
Sure. But it's going to require some pretty good execution. It's going to require staying committed to Ezekiel Elliott. It's going to take. It's going to have to. They're going to need something from the tight ends to help out. Amari Cooper's got to continue playing like he did on Monday night. And the biggest issue you're going to have is Dak Prescott has got to protect the football. No fumbling. He can't be throwing off his back foot into double coverage in the end zone. It's really going to factor around the offense. I think the defense will do enough to keep them in it. However, if the offense can't do anything for them, just, keep drives alive, keep the opposing offense off the field, that's the only way that they have a chance.
Yeah.
But ultimately, no, I don't think that they can do enough.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this is a 28-17 game, possibly. I think Dallas can score a little bit. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do enough. And so, I mean, I hate to say it, but it really feels like 3-6 is coming up.
Yeah, the only thing is every time it seems like Garrett's about to lose the locker room, I seem to have his back in a way that brings belief back. So, look, I'm not crazy enough to call an upset here by the Cowboys, especially considering the way they played last week. But I also think, this team has responded multiple times over the course of Garrett's career, certainly, but this team in particular has responded when their backs are against the wall and to a certain degree. So we'll see if it can happen again Sunday night in Philadelphia. The pregame show on 105 through the Fan will start at 4, and the postgame show takes you all the way to 1 o'clock with your questions and your thoughts on 105 through the Fan locally in Dallas and on the radio.com app. All right, make sure to follow Patrick Conn on Twitter at Draft Cowboys for all the latest and greatest information. And, of course, me at RE Sports. But for now, we are out. Peace.